Hey, y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders End of the Week.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Hey, Dylan, we've cruised right into the weekend.
Yeah, we're all up in it.
How's it going?
It's going pretty
You
great.
feeling good?
I am. We caught an interesting concert last night. Right?
Billy Idol and Joan Jett? What?
Yeah, two rock icons. Can you say that right?
Sure.
Legends.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what was your takeaway from the show?
Oh, man, I loved it. I had a great time. I've seen Billy and Joan before, so it was not my first rodeo, Dylan.
Have you ever seen them together?
No, but it was your first time, and we were very gentle with you.
I have to say, Joan is still got it.
She still got it.
Great performer, great voice still, killing that guitar. And I got to say, Billy Idol has a great band with him. And it's not his fault, but he's lost a step.
Look, bud, he's a senior citizen now.
Right.
He's an elderly man.
He is.
He is not 22 years old.
He's been rebel yelling for a very long time.
He's rebel yelled quite a bit. And I have to say, he still rocked my Cradle of Love. So I was very pleased.
No, it was a good show. Billy did a great job. But it is interesting as you know, we've caught some acts and they're all quite older now because we're older, you know, as people we grew up with. And, yeah, it's kind of funny to watch, you know?
It's funny.
Well, yeah, just, you know, how things change. How
Time marches on, bud.
How people change. And me and you both wondered, like, is this all they know as performers? And they still need still need to make money? Or, you know, or do they just love performing? Because I don't believe that's it. Because I gotta imagine that's a kind of a hard thing to do show after show when you're on a tour.
I'm sure that, you know, if you haven't had a hit song in 30 plus years or longer, you probably need the cash. So a good tour is going to set you up for the next year, right?
Right. Tour, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah.
And then you're off for the rest of the year?
What do we know? We don't even get a tour.
I just tore my bathroom.
We don't get anything. All I get's a double chin.
So, time marches on.
Time marches on, Dylan. We have a lot to discuss today as far as true crime news because we're a little late to the game. I want to start off with our main story. Eric and Lyle Menedez have been resentenced to 50 years to life in prison with the possibility of parole for the 1989 murder of their parents. This ruling means the brothers could one day walk free from prison nearly 3 decades after they were sentenced to life without parole for the killings of their parents, Jose and Kitty Menedez, at their Beverly Hills home.
And this is a rather big development in this case, I would say, right?
Eric and Lyle have admitted to the murders, but argued the killings were self-defense after enduring years of their father's abuse. Several family members are supporting the brothers. They've taken to the stand to plead for their release. So now the California State Parole Board must decide whether to grant the brothers parole, and they have a hearing scheduled for June 13th as part of a separate bid for freedom by the brothers.
And what do you think about this?
I think it's a long time coming.
Well, I think that there's people that have done... Well, look, we can't. What they did was heinous. The way they, you know, just kind of crept up on their parents. Sounds like they were asleep. His mom was sleeping and all that. Reloading the shotgun, which I think you could, I don't know. It sounds horrible. It was a horrible crime. What they did was horrible. There was other ways out. They just didn't pursue, you know, maybe getting help from someone else or authorities or any of that. What they did was terrible. But I do think that society is safe from them if they were to be released, unless they've been hardened and changed considerably in prison from the person they were.
Which doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, from all what everyone's saying,
right.
Doesn't seem to be the case. But I think society would be safe. I wouldn't be afraid to live next door to them.
You're saying you will mark yourself safe from the Menedez brothers on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay.
I wouldn't be afraid to be their neighbors. And obviously I would ask them if they would come sit down for our podcast. But I think that everyone
You would offer them a chair so they could sit and look with you?
yeah, and I'll be like, we need to talk more about this toupee you had, bud.
Oh, Dylan.
But anyway, I think I think people have done as bad or worse and spent less time in prison. And yeah, I think they deserve a second chance. I really do.
I think in light of some new developments over the past couple of years, like, for example, one of the former members of the boy band, Menudo, said in an affidavit that he was raped by Jose Menendez when he was about 14 years old. So this information really does back up the claims of the brothers that Jose was a sexual predator.
Right.
It also seems there was a letter written by Eric about the abuse before the killings. And in this petition to, kind of reconsider the conviction and sentencing, his attorneys were able to kind of pass that on along with this new evidence from the Menudo band member, which really, I think, helped their case, obviously. And I think it's interesting how the Menendez brothers, we are seeing a shift in attitudes, perhaps. Back in the 90s when the brothers were on trial and were being sentenced, I just remember everyone painting them like they were such monsters.
Right.
And they just sort of glossed over the fact the boys were molested or abused by their father.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what did you take away from that? That they were spoiled brats,
Yes,
who wanted their parents' wealth and didn't want to listen to anyone else, and they wanted access to all the money, and then they're going around and they are spending money in dumb ways because they're young, dumb guys, kids.
Well, let's be honest. I think most of us at that age, if we came into a fortune suddenly, would probably be on a spending spree. I don't think it necessarily reflects that they wanted their parents' money or that they murdered their parents
to get the money.
to gain this wealth.
Right. They
Right.
just had the wealth anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people, some people may disagree. I think when you consider all the information available, and I just don't think that someone would like the Menudo band member. I don't think people would just admit to being raped by someone just to help somebody out. I mean, I think there's truth to that. That seems like a pretty strong statement. That's not something someone would put forth lightly in an official document. So, yeah, I mean,
It'll be interesting to see what comes next for the Menendez brothers.
oh wow, dude, they can have a whole brand nowadays.
They could have a whole brand.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, don't you think?
Sure. What are they going to like make barbecue sauce or something?
Well, if two barrel
Barbecue sauce so tasty it'll kill your parents?
2-barrel barbecue sauce.
All right.
There you go. Yeah. No, poor taste.
Sure. I don't know.
Is it too soon? Hey, if Casey Anthony can do it, anyone
can do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because she's a child murderer.
Let's think of we need to think of some product ideas that some of these murderers can brand.
Casey Anthony's Child Care Center. No, not going to work.
Sure. Or Casey Anthony's toddler toys.
Or Casey Anthony cold medicine.
What
Knocks them right out.
I'm thinking a Gypsy Rose Blanchard line of pajamas. Sleepwear by Gypsy Rose. Maybe some bedding. Linens.
Yeah.
The Killer Linens by Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
Gypsy Rose sheets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll slide right off of them.
Oh, you'll slide. Dylan, I don't even know what that means.
Diddy oil. Are we going to make that one?
We can make some Diddy oil.
Yeah.
Is it cooking oil or is it like sexy oil?
I'm
still weirded out by this baby oil. I can't get over it. I know it's been beat to death in the news. There have been memes and jokes and whatever.
Yeah.
But all this time later, I still cannot quite wrap my head around all this baby oil. And during the testimony where Cassie is discussing like her first freak off and being covered in baby oil, that is my nightmare. Do you know how much I don't like to be oily, Dylan?
Almost as much as I don't want to be sticky.
Yeah, I don't want to be oily. I don't like suntan oil. I don't want baby oil on my body. I don't want any kind of oil on my body. I cannot stand it.
Now, you said you're back in the day, back in the incredible 80s, your mom would slather herself
dude.
with baby oil, right?
Yeah.
And just basically roast out in the sun.
My mom and her best friend were like tanning addicts. I'm not even lying. They tanned all the time and with baby oil. My mom would get so dark. But yeah, from like 8 in the morning, like from the minute our public swimming pool opened, like 8, 9 in the morning, we were there, like right when the pool opened. And we were there till it closed at like 5. So
What?
my mom is like 8 hours a day roasting like all summer long in the sun.
So at first that sounds cool to a kid. Hey, let's hit the pool. But did you ever get tired of being there and want to go home?
Waterlogged?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little
and
bit.
Tired and...
Well, I've always been a water bug. I mean, you talk shit about my little kiddie pool,
Yeah.
but I go float around and I'm a mermaid and I love it. It's great. It's my self-care.
So for the most part, you were happy to sit at the pool
Dude,
for
I
hours.
loved it. We had a high dive back then.
Gosh.
Remember when we had high dives?
I do. It was so scary climbing up those, wet, slippery ladders, all like 20 feet in the fucking air.
Man,
dude.
I was like such a little kid and would climb the high dive and jump off at like 4 years old, and people would be like, "What?" Because I was such a small. I was a tiny little thing anyway when I was a kid. I didn't get a growth spurt until I was like 20. So people would always be like, "Oh my gosh," because I was so teeny and I'd just be climbing up the little ladder to the high dive.
And they'd have rules like if you climbed a ladder, you got to jump.
Oh, you got to jump.
That's because you got all these other kids like lined up halfway up the ladder. I mean, there was nothing safe about this. But I got to say, it builds character.
Jumping off the high dive.
Well, just facing, being like really, really scared in a situation like that and really having no other option but to do it, And then you do it and you're kind of super stoked
like
that
a
you
badass.
because you survived.
That's right, bitch. I'm the diving board queen.
Well, and like pools back then would have like a 20-foot deep,
Yeah, the deep end
the
was
deep
like
end.
14 feet or something.
Yeah, and they keep everybody back out of that area, and it was for the diving boards.
Man, I remember diving in the deep end, and you would throw like a penny in and try to go down to the bottom and get it. And if I
Yeah.
could get to the very bottom of the deep end and grab my little penny or whatever, I thought I was like the tits, bro.
Dude, it was pretty awesome.
Like I was ready to like become an Olympic swimmer. Absolutely.
You're going to be on the Wheaties box.
Yes. I think I told you about my Olympic diver story, didn't I?
I don't know.
I was watching Olympic divers. Again, they're on a high platform. I'm like the 4-year-old high dive queen. This was like the 84 Summer Olympics, I think.
Is this when you dove in the
Yeah,
tub?
I filled the bathtub up full of water and jumped from the toilet like head first into the bathtub thinking I could dive in and busted out my 2 front teeth.
Holy shit.
And then like, I think my mom was able to put them back in, but they turned black. My 2 front teeth.
God, that's such an 80s
But then they
parents move.
but then they fell out like a few days later. So for years, I didn't have 2 front teeth. I
So-
was missing my 2 front teeth until I was like 7 or 8, and they finally grew back in.
That's such a difference between times. You have you've smashed your face, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some blood.
Oh, we didn't go to the hospital.
You've
or
knocked
anything.
teeth out.
No,
Your
no
parent
emergency room.
recovers your teeth,
Yeah,
crams them back in the sockets where they go, and just hopes for the best.
yeah, pretty much.
Concussion? Nobody mentioned any of that.
No, I can think of multiple times as a child when I'm pretty sure I got a concussion, and we never went to the hospital.
No, they'd be like, just keep them up for a few hours.
Yeah.
Don't go to sleep.
Yes.
And you fucking fell out.
Like the time I was over at this girl Pamela's house and we were playing Dirty Dancing, and her stepbrother, who was like a few years older than us,
You did the move?
we were doing the lift
Yeah.
in the basement of all places.
Not in a river?
And my lift, I went up and over and then landed face first
Oh, God.
on the concrete slab in the basement.
Damn.
Pretty sure I had a concussion.
Yeah.
They had to call my mom to come get me. Yeah, no hospital. I was seeing stars.
You were having the time of your life.
I was seeing Johnny Castle.
Damn, girl.
There you go.
This explains a lot.
Yeah.
It really does.
A whole episode of my many injuries, head injuries, does explain a
Gosh,
lot,
you got
right?
the brain of a pro football player.
Probably. I believe it. Are you ready to talk about some other true crime news here, Dylan?
Yes, moving
Crime
along.
news. This is a wild one. I just can't even believe it, Dylan. Valeria Marquez was shot and killed while she was live streaming from her beauty salon in Jalisco, Mexico on May 13th.
I saw the story and I thought, yet again, what a very modern day true crime story, right? To be caught on live stream, you being murdered.
Prosecutors now believe that hired assassins may be responsible for the death of this 23-year-old influencer who was shot dead while live streaming from her beauty salon in Mexico earlier this week. It was on Tuesday, May 13th, that Marquez was at her salon, Blossom Beauty Lounge, when, according to reports, a man entered and fired a gun at her. The moment was caught on a TikTok live stream, and Marquez was actively recording for her followers at the time of her death.
That's so crazy.
Just hours before Marquez arrived at the salon, a man posed as a delivery driver pretending to have a, quote, very expensive gift for the influencer. The man, who was wearing a mask and was accompanied by another man on a motorcycle, told a woman at the salon they needed to deliver this gift in person because it was so expensive.
So they came by hours before she was actually murdered and were looking for her.
Yes.
She wasn't there.
Right.
So they said, we'll be back.
They returned. After Marquez arrived at Blossom, she learned that men had asked after her. She became fearful and stated that she was worried. On the TikTok live stream, she's talking about, like, I'm really worried about this. I'm concerned.
So she wasn't falling for it.
No, she seemed to kind of have an idea of what was about to happen. She said, quote, maybe they're going to kill me. Were they going to come and take me away or what? She said during the live stream.
Now, this sounds like professionals, and it sounds like basically an assassination. So it really leads me to wonder what she did to draw out, the ire of the cartel, if you will.
Well,
what she did to cross them.
I don't know if we know for sure it's cartel related, Dylan. That's mostly speculation, though I do feel that it sounds very cartel like.
So it could be someone just wanted her to do her harm and hired these people to do it, you think?
Well, I mean, we don't know. It could have just been someone. I mean, anyone could hire an assassin to come kill you.
Well, yeah.
It could be an ex-boyfriend. Maybe she owed somebody money. We don't know. We're just speculating.
She also had a little bit of, she was a little bit famous, locally famous, right? With her TikTok account was rather, quite a bit of followers.
I think she had something like 250,000 followers, maybe.
And maybe it could be jealousy. It could be a number of things.
So that's like a nano influencer, right? When you have a small following.
Well, 250,000 is pretty good.
Well, yeah, but I think in the grand scheme of things, that's still considered, like, kind of a small number.
Well, so
we're not splitting hairs here.
I'm a minuscule influencer.
I don't even think we're on the radar, Dylan.
I got the ability to go live on TikTok somehow for some reason.
You should.
I wasn't even trying, so I'm not sure what happened there. So yeah,
I think we should do a live Q&A from the kiddie pool. It's like Mountain Murders pool party.
Nobody wants to see that
in the 10x30 swimming pool.
Yeah,
they absolutely do, Dylan. The masked man and motorcyclist returned to the salon minutes after Marquez expressed her fears. And what they did next led prosecutors to believe they were hitmen. One of the men asked if Marquez was in the salon. So it appears like he didn't know her.
Okay. So, yeah, he didn't know her by sight.
Yeah, law enforcement is saying so. What they have deduced without jumping to conclusions is that this person was paid. They came there with a purpose, but they didn't exactly personally know their target. They didn't know what she looked like. He had to ask.
So they were sent by someone else, it sounds like.
But contract killers on motorcycles have become quite common in this part of Mexico, it seems. The two men on a motorcycle carried out the murder of a former congressman in the area just before Marquez's death. Now, I don't know if it's exactly these two men, but two other men on a motorcycle carried out Yeah, a murder on a congressman.
The same MO.
Yep. Authorities are trying to, see if these two cases are connected. But it's just such a wild story.
Well, you said anyone could hire an assassin to kill you, but only if there's assassins for hire in your area.
Craigslist.
Which, a lot of that, you hear about assassin clans on, the dark web and all this. But, I mean, how many stories have we heard where someone tries to hire someone to kill somebody for them? And it's always law enforcement or a scammer.
We've never heard those stories.
Who just takes their money.
You just go to Craigslist and look under creative gigs, and that's where you'll find the hitmen.
Yeah.
Or the hit women, the assassins.
It's not true.
Yeah, I was actually reading an article, gosh, it's not been that long ago, about finding assassins or hitmen on the dark web. And it turns out that the majority of people posing as hitmen on there are either scammers who take your money or it's law enforcement. So
yes,
you really aren't able to find someone.
Yes, I was listening to an episode of Darknet Diaries, and the guy he interviewed spent many years actually sifting through the dark web and tracking down all these people, and he figured out that very thing, that they were all scammers or law enforcement trying to trick someone. And well, not trick, but because if you go on there and ask someone to kill, you need to be tricked.
I'm just gonna send you some Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Do we have an official contract?
Well,
I mean, see, that's all super sketch. I'm not gonna hand the money over. I need to know these services need to be guaranteed.
Well, they operate on a handshake and a promise, a virtual handshake.
It's a very old school way of doing business, Dylan.
You got to do it yourself. You can't bring in a third party.
Your word is bond. Can't bring in a third party.
But you shouldn't murder people, though. So,
are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not promoting violence.
Hot take. Have you heard of John Avery? He was a former running back for Ole Miss, and he did spend some time in the NFL.
Not off the top of my head.
Well, he's actually been reported as a missing person in Florida. The Port Orange Police Department revealed the news on Friday, and they're asking for help finding this former Ole Miss football player. He was a running back. He's been missing for 2 weeks and is believed to be in the Daytona Beach area.
So that's where he was last known to be?
Yeah, according to a social media post by the Port Orange Police Department, Avery is believed to be in the Daytona Beach area. They're trying to gather information and see if they can locate this guy. He's actually an Asheville, North Carolina native.
Really?
He played for Ole Miss during the 96-97 seasons. He had an outstanding tenure with the team, supposedly. He was named team captain during his senior year, leading the team with 862 rushing yards on 166 carries.
Okay.
Are those good stats?
I think so.
All right. Well, guy's missing, which is, kind of wild. I mean, 2 weeks is a minute.
Well, I mean, that's long enough for it to not be a mistake or just people having, crossed their wires or, any of that. 2 weeks is quite a long time, I think, for no one he knows, friends or family, to be contacted by him.
Dylan, this is a case I want to discuss. The case of Steven Stanko. I've actually considered covering this case on Mountain Murders. Stanko was twice sentenced to death for killing 2 people nearly 2 decades ago. He was scheduled Friday to be executed on June 13th.
This guy is a freaking monster, I think.
Yeah, the state Supreme Court issued the death warrant against Steven Stanko for the Horry County shooting death of a friend. He is also on death row for killing a woman he was living with in Georgetown County and raping her teenage daughter. Stanko was the first person whose death has been scheduled in South Carolina since Michael Mahdi was executed by a firing squad on April 11th. Mahdi's lawyers released autopsy results that show the shots that killed him barely hit his heart, And they suggested he was in agonizing pain for 3 or 4 times longer than experts say he would have been if his heart had been hit directly.
Much like his victims that he murdered.
Well,
I don't care. I wish they had shot him 100 times before he died. I don't get that. That doesn't land with me. Your pain and suffering, because you had to do something terrible to be on death row in most every state. I mean, it has to be a heinous crime with, typically with extenuating circumstances and stuff to add on and this and that. And you go through all these appeals and, I mean, you get all these chances to make sure it's right. And when they do it, I don't care. I don't care if you suffered. I hope you suffered. That's my take.
I don't disagree with you. And I'm sure the victims' families probably feel the same, Dylan.
Oh, it didn't kill him cleanly enough. Oh, so? I don't know what to tell you.
Boo fucking who?
Death by 1,000 cuts. That's how he should have died.
Stanko is now 57 years old, and he's being executed for killing his 74-year-old friend Henry Turner. Stanko went to Turner's home in April of 2006 after lying about his father dying, and then he shot Turner twice while using a pillow as a silencer.
There's an episode of Dateline, and the girl that he rapes,
the daughter of
yes, the woman he killed, recounts what happened to her.
I've listened to this episode,
and it is
harrowing,
terrible. Just, you can to this day hear it in her voice. She lives with this shit for the rest of her life, and it's just terrible.
Stanko stole Turner's truck, cleaned out his bank account, and then spent the next few days in Augusta, Georgia, where he told people in town that he was there for the Masters golf tournament and that he owned several Hooters restaurants. Owning a Hooters restaurant is the pinnacle of success for this fella.
Well, I mean, I wish I owned some Hooters restaurants. I'm just
saying, like, if you have a chance to lie to people, you could tell them you invented Post-its.
Right.
Like Romeo and Michelle. But you're going to tell them you own a Hooters restaurant or 2 or 3?
If I did own said fake Hooters restaurants, I would really wow people by having elevated cuisine, elevated bar appetizers.
That's not what they go for, Dylan.
Well, that's why they would come to mine.
They want wings.
And they would be very, very engaging, intelligent women would be your waitresses.
Well, while he was in Augusta for this, Masters tournament, he stayed with a woman who took him to church. She then called police once she saw his photo and realized he was wanted for murder. Hours before killing Turner, Stanko beat and strangled his girlfriend in her home and then raped her teenage daughter before slashing the girl's throat. The daughter survived, and she did testify against him at one of his trials. Stanko admitted to the killings. His defense said he had problems with his frontal lobe that left him aggressive, unable to control his impulses, and without empathy.
Yeah, see, it's funny. He keeps claiming that he would have these blackouts, if you will. But they only happened when he was about to be caught in a bunch of lies or something was not going to go his way, is when these blackouts would happen. It's very convenient for him. Maybe he'll black out right before his execution and he won't have to feel it, right?
They argued that he was either not guilty by reason of insanity or that he at least shouldn't be, receiving the death penalty because of his mental illness. But in his appeals, Stanko said his trial attorney ruined his chance at a fair trial and lost any sympathy from jurors by calling him a psychopath.
Or the description of your crimes may have led the jury down that path, bud. You're going to strangle a woman and then rape and try your best to murder her daughter, her teenage daughter, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. She was like 14, 15,
yeah.
16. I mean, she was young.
Well, not that happened. I mean, raping any woman of any age is a terrible thing, obviously, but I mean, that's even worse, right?
After she knows you've just murdered her mother?
Yeah.
Oh, it's fucking disgusting and brutal. Stanko was going to be the 6th inmate killed in South Carolina since there was an unintended 13-year pause on executions that ended in September of last year in 2024.
And obviously that'd be linked to the...
Well, the state struggled to get those drugs that they needed for lethal injections. And so until it passed a shield law that allowed the execution procedures and the names of the drug supplier and execution team members to remain secret, they had kind of this hiatus.
You know the irony of that whole situation with the drugs that they make, the lethal injection cocktails, they're actually produced in foreign countries, not America, that do not agree.
I want to know my execution drugs are made in America.
But they don't agree with capital punishment in practice. So at some point they were like, we're just not going to send you the stuff, right? The states didn't even. They're like, all right, bet. We'll bring back the firing squad and hang in, and we might drown a motherfucker. We don't even give a. It doesn't matter.
We might quarter a person.
So you didn't do anything but bring back these kind of older, what people view as a more antiquated forms of executing a criminal. And I got to say, South Carolina's not playing around, bud.
Let's just bring back the guillotine.
Just bring back the
quick.
Yeah,
right?
How quick? Yeah,
probably painless.
That's got to
It's
be
just so quick.
That's got to be right. You have this weighted blade that comes from way up, boom, just like that. Won't that be painless?
I say bring it back.
I say do it and stream it.
The guillotine's pretty rock and roll. Look, if I'm ever on death row, which I shouldn't be because I've never killed anybody, and
You're
going to
choose guillotine
to kill. I'm going to ask them if I can have the guillotine because it's pretty metal, and I want an executioner there in like a hood.
Yeah.
Like no. I want some like badass music playing.
So, okay.
Let's like make a party. Or we could have like a French themed execution. Like everybody could be dressed like Marie Antoinette or something.
Yeah.
Powdered wigs.
Talk about let them eat cake.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And, people can be yelling about like the Bastille behind me.
Yes.
I want to wear a powdered wig when they chop my head off.
Dude.
Yeah.
This would be freaking.
And then I want the executioner to like raise my
pick your
head.
head up.
And I want the big powdered bouffant wig to just topple off. And then people will just see my shitty baby fine hair.
Yes.
Yeah, in my head.
Dude.
No. See, this is badass.
This hypothetical execution's very metal.
Right.
I love it.
Maybe death penalty, the opposition, the anti-death penalty folks, maybe they could get on board if we made more of like, made these executions more entertaining.
Let's bring this full circle. You make it a pay-per-view event. You take those proceeds. People that you don't have to, you won't be public, but if you want to see it, you can pay, right? Have age restrictions, all that. And then you take that money that's raised from those proceeds and you test rape kits that's been sitting on the shelf for years.
Or you start up like a victim fund for the families.
That feeds back into people who are victims of violent crime.
Yeah.
Boom.
Very genius.
I like it.
Yeah. All right. I think we just solved a few problems here, Dylan.
Gosh, we have to remember this one.
I have a story for you, Dylan. So I'm just saying, don't make me mad anytime soon. All right? Because police in Florida say they arrested a nurse accused of beating her wife and shoving a handful of cheesy nachos down her pants.
God.
So don't piss me off.
Now this is.
I will bring the cheesy nachos.
Tell us more. I have so many questions.
39-year-old Allison Swan, a registered nurse in Port St. Lucie, Florida, was taken into custody for the incident in the early morning hours of May 3rd. The Port St. Lucie Police Department said they took her into custody after responding to a welfare request on an alleged victim. According to the arrest report, officers arrived around 3 a.m. at the residence of Swan and the 40-year-old alleged victim, whose name was not released. Police said Swan denied any physical altercation or violence and instead claimed that she had to barricade herself in the bedroom because the victim was, quote, in a drunken rage and was upset because she did not want to watch TV with Swan. She also claimed her wife made several holes in the wall, but again denied any physical altercation between the couple. Her wife, of course, had a very different story. She said she was in the kitchen making nachos while Swan was playing video games in the living room. Allison, the perpetrator in this case,
alleged perpetrator,
told her wife, okay, this is where the bitch went wrong.
If she said this.
Allison told her wife she should not be eating nachos this late at night and made a comment about her weight.
Oh, God.
Oh, man, see, you done did it.
So she's in there. She's had some drinks, sounds like, and
She's just trying to eat some nachos.
She wants a midnight snack.
I want some nachos.
And I think we should go get nacho stuff because, and see, I have dumb questions
But you know better than to tell me not to eat the nachos and to make a comment about my weight. Because I'm going to respond with, yeah, I'm going to eat these nachos and I'm going to fucking eat you too.
I would never stand there and let someone shove nachos down my pants. And I also wonder if they were just cheesy nachos or if they had all the fixings.
Well, I have to say the other mistake is you're at home. Why are you wearing pants? Like, home is where the pants aren't.
Right.
I want to be making cheesy nachos in my underwear at midnight.
No bras or pants.
Oh, no. The two began arguing, and then Allison walked over to the victim, grabbed a handful of the nachos, the cheesy nachos, Dylan, and shoved them down the back of the victim's pants. The two began arguing, and the victim walked to the bedroom to change her pants. She told police that's when her wife attacked her physically, slamming her against the wall in the hallway just outside of their bedroom, and then slamming her face first onto the floor. Now, this isn't okay. We're making light of the situation,
yes.
But I mean, domestic violence, I mean, we're not saying that's funny. I mean, it's not a laughing matter. We're just trying to make a light of the situation here because
it is not. And I think this is something that happens in same-sex when it's two females.
Well, we've discussed this.
People
on
make
other
light of it.
Episodes that, I think oftentimes domestic violence in same-sex relationships is just as prevalent, if not more prevalent, than heterosexual relationships. I mean, I think you often get an image of a man beating his wife, right?
Right.
But in these situations, you also have domestic violence.
Yeah, but what happens, I think, even to this day, is you have cops show up, and it's two females, and they're kind of like, oh, okay, gosh, it was a cat fight or something silly. They don't take it serious enough, much in the way more than once with Jeffrey Dahmer's victims.
Right.
That they were viewed as, at the very least, a gay couple, and the cops were just like, gross, get away from me, instead of helping. I mean, that's just a terrible story. That one young man who had already been drilled in the head or whatever and was trying his damnedest.
And he's very young.
And even the neighbors like, get this boy out of here, and they help him back in, help Dahmer recapture him basically and take him back inside the apartment. That's disgusting, and it should never happen.
This gets worse, Dylan. So the victim stated that Allison pinned her face down onto the floor, shoved her fingers into either side of her mouth, and hooked them like a fish.
It's called a fish hook. It's like a fighting move.
Allison then continued to batter her by grabbing her head and slamming it into the floor multiple times. And then at some point, Allison threw water on her wife.
This is a violent attack.
According to the police report, Swan used the attack to assert her dominance in their relationship. Throughout the incident, the victim stated that Allison kept making comments that she wanted the victim to know that she was in charge and that the victim was not behaving.
Yeah, see, this is really disgusting behavior. If true, this is terrible, violent behavior.
Well, at this point, Swan reportedly noticed that her wife was on the telephone with a friend who had listened to this entire assault. The victim told police she had called the friend after Swan had shoved those nachos down the backside of her pants. And this was before Swan turned violent. Swan backed off when she realized that the friend was on the phone and could hear what was happening.
A cowardly behavior.
Yeah.
They never want, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but they never ever want anyone else to know.
They don't want that mask to slip.
When they're doing this kind of shit to the person they supposedly love. Never, ever do they want someone else to know what they're doing. They're ashamed. They're ashamed of it, even while they're doing it.
Police said they found the scene and evidence that corroborated the story of the victim, including yellow cheesy stains on the wall that matched her backside. They reported a yellow substance consistent with nacho sauce on the interior backside of the victim's leggings. The victim also had a hematoma, which is a pooling of blood under the skin, on her forehead and scratches on her body consistent with her version of events. Swan was taken into custody and charged with only a misdemeanor domestic battery. She was released on $250 of bail.
If that was a man doing that to a woman, do you think it would be viewed differently if he had left all those marks all over her?
I don't know, maybe.
I feel
I
like
mean, oftentimes, I just don't think domestic violence is taken very seriously.
she's not even held for
Well,
the
I
cooling
think
off period.
it depends on the state too, Dylan. Some states
Right.
have different laws. So Florida seems to have, I guess, laxer laws about this type of thing.
Damn.
Dylan, there is going to be a movie about the Golden State Killer released.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so this is according to the Sacramento Bee. A film about the Golden State Killer has secured a distributor after it was on sale this week at the Cannes Film Market. Deadline reported a true crime thriller titled Golden State Killer is going to be distributed domestically by Grindstone Entertainment, which is a partner of Lionsgate. The movie was previously called The Policeman, and it's written and directed by Vito Brown.
Okay.
James Franco stars as a detective investigating Joseph James D'Angelo, the killer who eventually pleaded guilty in 2020 to 13 counts of murder and 13 counts of kidnapping to commit robbery. Now, D'Angelo is going to be played by Vincent Gallo, and he already has a lot of controversy surrounding him, but it does not stop because controversy arose over the film early last year because two women accused Gallo of behaving inappropriately during the audition process. This is according to Rolling Stone magazine. And a third woman didn't attend the casting process after hearing about Gallo's behavior. These complaints prompted a labor union, the Screen Actors Guild, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, to begin investigating Gallo. D'Angelo, as we know, is a former police officer. He terrorized victims across California for 12 years, from Sacramento down to Orange County. His first killing was in September of 1975, but he wasn't arrested or identified until 2018 when he was living in Citrus Heights. And by that time, I mean, now he's 79, so he was a much older man at this point when he's arrested. He admitted to 62 rapes and other crimes for which he has not been charged.
That's insane.
Now, he's currently in prison in California, but they will not disclose where he is incarcerated. Now, Vincent Gallo, he's had some controversy surrounding him before. I guess he kind of rose to prominence in the indie film world back in like the late 90s and early 2000s. He had the film Buffalo 66. But one of the big controversies that I'm familiar with came about when he starred in a film. It's like written and directed by him called Brown Bunny with actor Chloe Sevigny. And I believe they were a couple at the time. But the controversy is, it was very scandalous. She actually gave him a BJ in the movie.
A real
BJ.
Oh.
And it's not like it's just a short clip.
Right, it's like an extended sex scene.
Yes. And she's really giving him oral sex in the film. And people were kind of like, what?
What? And they're like filming it full on?
Yeah.
Is that not porn at that point? I mean, is that what the controversy is? Because, I mean, they try to stay artful and tasteful and, all this stuff.
Well, I guess that's for you to decide. Is it art? Does it play a part in the film? Or do you think it's pornography?
Have you seen Brown Bunny?
Years ago, he's like a race car driver. Like, I remember that part.
Yeah.
But this movie came out like early 2000s, back when I watched a lot of indie cinema. And I haven't seen it since. Well, there are just few things that stick out in my mind. Like, I remember he was like a race car driver.
Okay.
And she was his girlfriend. And I feel like they maybe had a tumultuous kind of thing going on. I don't know.
Well, this is interesting because Franco's had his own share of controversy.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're teaming up.
Alleged sexual assaults.
Yeah, more than one.
Yeah. So, I don't know. What do you think? Would you want to see this film? I know you're not a big Franco fan.
I'm not a big Franco fan, even before the alleged assault allegations. Well, I guess they're not alleged. They're real.
Look, I had a big crush on him for a long time. I'm not going to lie.
He's never blown me away in anything.
Well, I didn't say he was a good actor.
Right.
I'm just saying he's pretty.
So, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would give it a shot. Now I'm going to go watch Brown Bunny.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
All right, Dylan. I don't know if this surprises anyone because these kinds of stories have been making the rounds on social media for quite a while now, and that is cruise ship crime.
I've seen a lot of this.
Now, cruise ship crime has reached a 2-year high, which experts say cast a dark cloud for travelers. Like, you think so? So, crime rates aboard cruise ships leaving the United States have reached this 2-year high. According to data from the Department of Transportation, allegations of 48 crimes were reported on board cruise ships just from January 1st of 2025 to March 30th of 2025.
Damn.
That's a lot of crimes in a short period of time.
And what's scary about it is, you're kind of, for the most part, effectively trapped on this ship with people. So I think that's what kind of makes this even more concerning than, say, if an area you might visit on land had a rising crime rate or more reports. You don't feel as kind of
like you could get away
like
from
you could leave that area at any
crimes?
time. That's not
Yes.
true on a cruise ship.
23 incidents were reported rapes, 10 were sexual assaults, and 7 were assaults. And of course, these all reportedly happened on cruise ships. Now, what I think is funny is that we have this criminal justice lecturer who is a former Secret Service special agent named Robert McDonald, not to be confused with Ronald.
His cousin Ronald.
Though the fries are good. I will give you props on the fries. Now, he told Fox News Digital that crime negatively affects the cruise industry. I'm so glad we needed an expert to tell us that.
This guy is leading in his field.
But he does say that sometimes the cruise lines don't want to report the information on the front end, depending on what kind of crime it is, because, of course, they don't want this kind of attention. It's going to keep people from sailing.
So giving people the information to make an informed decision about whether or not they want to actually purchase your product, he's against. They're reluctant to do that. And this is something we've seen many times before. Tourist destinations, things like that. They don't want to scare people off from coming there. But let's be honest, these are not. This isn't a joke.
No, I mean, we know what
Rape,
happened on Amity Island when the mayor refused to report that there were shark attacks. Jaws attacked a number of people, all because he didn't want to ruin the tourism for the Memorial Day weekend or whatever.
Yes, we all remember that fictional movie.
It's real. It's a real story.
But yes, and I think
documentary.
this is it's very it's not right when they are reluctant for these for economic reasons. And these are serious crimes: rape, sexual assault, physical assault. I mean, this isn't a laughing matter. It's not a joke.
No, it's not. It's not, Dylan.
I don't
I'm
know.
going to stop laughing.
I'm
going to laugh inside.
I don't think cruises are for me. And I've felt this way long before this. I'm just
Well, I think cruises aren't for you for the same reasons that McDonald's says cruises are more prone to crime, because of the number of people packed into a tight area.
Yes. I can't even sit in a seat beside people at a concert and be comfortable.
No, we were upgraded at our Billy Idol concert. We got upgraded seats. We sat in them for all of about 20 minutes until I could tell that you were on the brink of something. You were not happy. And I said, let's just go back to our original seats. You had a neighbor in the seat next door who was standing up, and her ass, she was pretty tall, and her ass was in your face the whole time, which normally you might not complain about.
No.
But then her boyfriend or husband, whoever this douchey guy was with a gold chain on, he kept slapping her ass, like right in your face.
No, I'm always going to complain about it. Would not matter. The ass would not matter because I don't think like that. Like, I'm thinking, like, what if she just took a big old poo, right? I'm thinking this could be a poo butt in my face.
Okay.
See, this is how my brain works. And so, no, yeah, we usually get lawn seats where you get a little chair and you're out on the grass.
I like the lawn.
I like it.
I prefer the lawn.
You know,
I know that probably sounds nutty, but
yeah. But we
I don't
go
like those hard plastic seats. I don't want to sit next to people.
we go to get our chair, and obviously lawn seats are quite a bit cheaper, right? But it works for us. We go to get our chairs that we rent, little low back chairs, and the woman's like, because the crowd was kind of light, I think they were trying to fill in.
They were
Underneath, and those tickets are quite a bit more expensive, maybe 5 times more expensive than what we paid or more. And she's like, do you want to upgrade? And we're like, yeah, I guess. I've never tried it. I always wondered what it was like under, in the seating down near the stage.
Oh, you were always you've never been in the fancy seats?
No.
I haven't, honestly. I've always just preferred the lawn seating.
So I'm like, well, okay,
I
cool.
feel like there's more room to stretch and kick and
jump
around.
I don't want to have to bug people every time I get up to go to the bathroom or get a drink or anything like that. But whatever. So I'm like, cool, maybe they're good seats. And we go find the rows. We go in there, and they are pretty good seats. Great view of the stage. You got little fans going and stuff. I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. And the rows are all around us are basically empty. Well, then some people come and sit on Heather's side. And this guy...
So I could have moved down and sat next to this guy, but go ahead, Dylan.
Almost instantly, because it is pretty hot and muggy at that point. This guy's shirt disappears. And he's a big gentleman.
And very hairy.
And he's very hairy, and he's sweating. Very hairy and sweaty.
It was very humid. I was sweating, too.
Right. We're all sweating. But this guy's shirt is gone. Just like he sits down, they're getting comfortable. I look back over, his shirt's gone. There's
so
hair
I could have
everywhere.
moved next to the sweaty guy.
Yeah.
So it was either move next to the sweaty guy and give you a break, or you get to stand next to the ass-slapping porn couple that were like French kissing and making out like every 2 seconds. I mean, it was a lot.
No, dude.
Like, come on, guys.
Well, you got these seats.
They were very hot and horny for each other. Good for them.
Yeah.
I could tell it was early in their relationship.
You have these seats.
People who've been together for a while aren't that into each other.
You're going to come stand the whole time. Those people, for one, it's one thing, hey, I got excited. But I just think standing when there's people like behind you and stuff that want to see, I've always thought it was rude. And it's not something I would do all the time. But they're standing. I got this narrow ass in my face. It's getting slapped.
If there had been like a juicier ass, would you have been happy?
No, because I still would be thinking it's a poo butt.
Okay.
It wouldn't matter. It's ass. Ass at my face. That's not my wife's. It's not okay.
Well, I don't know. I might have traded seats with you if it had been a nice ass. Not to flat butt shame anybody, but
anyway.
All right, Dylan. Well, McDonald's said that anytime you get a large number of people together, whether it's like a Super Bowl game or like a World Series or graduations or something like that, whenever you get a lot of people together, and especially whenever there's alcohol involved, people tend to get loose a little bit, maybe stray from their normal personality, and then that sort of exacerbates fights, arguments that can, often lead to some kind of crime happening.
This guy's an expert for a reason. Alcohol makes it worse.
Well, he says anytime we get together, those numbers are going to go up, whether that's on a cruise ship or at a resort or whatever. But I just don't remember back in the day seeing videos of brawls on cruise ships. Like, that's not something that you would hear about a lot. But it seems kind of common today to hear about brawls breaking out. Like, even before you get on the cruise ship.
Well, yeah, you're seeing fights in the port loading onto the ship in the terminal, if you will. You're seeing people get left in other countries at other ports because they're causing a disturbance, and I just don't understand. If you're going on a cruise, it's supposed to be vacation. It's supposed to be relaxing.
Just chill.
And I don't
chill, Daddy, chill.
I don't understand why you want to fight. I really think it's the people. It was always a certain type of people went on cruises. They were chill already. You know what I mean? They just want to relax.
Yeah.
They want to eat, drink, listen to some music, see, feel like they're traveling the world when you're really
I always kind of felt like, and maybe I'm wrong, but when I was younger, it seemed like cruises were maybe more for like older folks. And I don't even mean that like in a derogatory way. I just mean when I say older, I meant like 40 plus. People who had disposable income to go on a cruise, which typically isn't like 18-year-olds, because I didn't go on a cruise. But I just remember thinking it was like Like my mom liked cruising, and she would go with my great aunt, and they loved it. I mean, you get your food and kind of hang out and have all the little activities. Go play shuffleboard. But it just seems like maybe the clientele has changed or something.
I don't know. Yeah, it's almost like people are going for kind of this party boat mentality now, and that's always going to bring people with the wrong attitude.
Yeah,
along.
I don't think I would like it. Like, I've seen too many videos on social media that make me think I'm not built for cruises, and I've never been on a cruise. I mean, one that wasn't sponsored by the United States Navy.
Right.
And it wasn't a fun party boat. I'm just going to say we did have Jim on board. If you could, and some Spam. You got Spam for breakfast sometimes. But yeah, it wasn't a party boat. But I see these videos, and it'll be people like complaining. It's like 7 a.m. and like the music's already full
Blaring.
blast at the pool. Why aren't they letting us sleep in? That kind of thing. I don't know.
No.
I feel like it would ruin the trip. I want to sleep late on vacation. I don't want to be on a schedule.
Yeah,
I don't
want to be so strict with the itinerary. I don't want.
And I'm not a fuddy-dud, but I'm like, can't you wait till like noon to start blaring music when I'm not hungover anymore?
I don't want other people's what they're doing
to
affect me. That's it, and I'm not going to affect them. So that's it.
There you go, Dylan. You don't want an electric slide?
Maybe, but not at 7 a.m.
Not if it affects them. Okay. Well, on March 21st, 2 were arrested after allegedly molesting a minor while on board a Royal Caribbean cruise that set sail from Miami. 36-year-old Jose Prudencio Diaz and Ricardo Daniel Mondragon Leal, age 37, were charged with child molestation and exhibition after an incident on the cruise ship's Independence of the Seas. The victim was identified as a 14-year-old boy, and he told police that he was in the ship's sauna when these 2 men allegedly began masturbating in front of him.
That's
very disturbing.
Yes.
And according to records from the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office, Diaz and Leal forced the victim to touch them. Leal also allegedly forced the minor to perform a sex act. Yeah. So one recent incident involved dozens of Carnival Cruise Line passengers who got into a brawl while disembarking from a ship on April 26th. I think this is the video that I've seen most recently. In a video posted to social media, several passengers pushed through crowds in the port of Galveston, Texas cruise terminal. And this fight breaks out. People can be seen punching and kicking each other. Carnival Cruise ended up placing 24 passengers on a do not sail list.
So you can never come on Carnival Cruise again.
You can never sail away with Christopher Cross. No, you're not going to be sailing. Not even like What About Bob? They're not going to tie you to the front of the boat and let you sail.
Sailing.
Never for you. I don't know, Dylan. Wild stuff happening in the world.
There's a lot going on.
We have one more thing, and we'll wrap up today, Dylan. There is a new Netflix documentary that explores the tangled story of a widowed Irish businessman who married his children's nanny in this, what they describe as a storybook love affair. Now, this is going to serve as the setting for a new Netflix true crime documentary following them across the ocean to North Carolina. It's called A Deadly American Marriage. It's billed as a tragic love story in which this romance turns dark.
Damn.
Jason Corbett's death in 2015 has made international headlines. It was chronicled in an episode of ABC's 2020. Much like The Staircase and its treatment of Kathleen Peterson's death in Durham, this series promises new eyes and fresh attention on the case. It's just kind of wild, Dylan. He was an executive in the packaging industry, and he relocated from Ireland to Davidson County. Like, why would you do that?
For work.
Who wants to live in Davidson County when you're in Ireland? But he relocated with his American wife, Molly, and his 2 children from his first wife, who had passed away in 2016. Formerly the family's nanny, Molly Corbett became romantically involved with her employer while they were living in Limerick, Ireland, and the two wed in 2011. Thomas Martins, that's Molly Corbett's father, he's a retired FBI agent. He would later testify during a 5-week trial that he woke during a visit in 2015 to find Jason Corbett choking his daughter and threatening to kill her.
Damn, I would beat his ass.
He described beating his son-in-law with the bat he had bought, I guess, one of the grandchildren as a gift. And Molly Corbett joined the bedroom melee. She brought in a brick paving stone to beat her husband. So he died from blunt force trauma to the head, having suffered multiple skull fractures and brain bleeding in the bedroom. There was blood and carpet splattered on the walls. Very bad.
Wow, what a horrific scene.
Jurors in the case were unconvinced by the father and daughter's self-defense argument, and they were both convicted of second-degree murder, sending them to prison with sentences of 20 and 25 years. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But in 2021, the North Carolina Supreme Court ruled that Corbett and Martins deserved a new trial because of evidence the jury never heard.
Exculpatory evidence?
Yeah, so first jurors did not hear that Jack Corbett, who was then 11, explained why his mother had a brick on her nightstand. In the interview, the opinion said he explained that he and his mother had been working on a garden project and he wanted to paint the brick until rain stalled their plans.
So it was a brick that just happened to be at arm's length in the room.
We're going to get to that, Dylan. Secondly, Sarah Corbett, who was then 8, told the Department of Social Services that she had a nightmare on the stand of the killing, prompting her mother to rush to her bedroom and making Jason Corbett angry to have been awakened. Third, both children said their father had grown increasingly angry and physically abusive, but there wasn't any evidence to support their account.
No police reports, nothing like that.
Molly Corbett and her father left prison in 2024 after pleading no contest to manslaughter. So they roughly served like 4 years altogether off and on.
So after they pled no contest, they basically gave them time served?
Well, at a sentencing hearing in 2023, the Superior Court Judge David Hall asked why Martins hadn't asked his wife to call 911 before he grabbed that baseball bat. He also questioned why Martins and his daughter came out of the struggle without injury while the deceased husband was beaten so badly. Now, both children have undercut their earlier statements at the same hearing, Dylan. Sarah Corbett, as a teen, said defense attorneys and witnesses twisted her words, while Jack Corbett admitted lying to investigators when he was 10 years old.
Wow, damn.
Corbett said, quote, "My words were weaponized to help Molly and Thomas Martins get away with killing my dad."
Wow, explosive recanting there.
Yeah. So this should be a really interesting documentary for all of our true crime lovers out there. Again, it's called A Deadly American Marriage.
Yeah, I knew nothing about this case. I think I'll definitely have to turn the old Netflix back on. I think it sounds like they have a couple of good docs on there. We're going to, we're playing, it's funny, we got to streaming to get away from the exorbitant costs of cable.
And the ads.
And the ads and having a bunch of channels you didn't use, right? Well, and at first it made sense, right? Yeah, $5, $6. Yeah, no problem. Well, now as these platforms have continually raised their prices, many of them are around $20 now. Well, if you get 4, 5, 6 different platforms,
it's more than cable.
It's or as much.
And a lot of times, even if you're paying the full price, you're still getting ads.
Or you can pay a little bit more and get no ads. Yeah. So I mean,
I'm still getting bombarded with ads.
As it's matured, it comes with its own problems. So now what we've decided to do, which
I think a lot of people are doing it,
is we will have certain ones for a month or two.
We kind of we rotate through the services.
They get stale, right?
Well, that's the other part of it, is that every channel or you have an MGM app,
right?
Paramount,
everything, Disney,
Max,
yes,
Stars. So you have like a billion apps, right? And so therefore, like these, MGM's keeping most of their movies on their app.
Right.
So then these streaming services like Netflix or Hulu, they don't upgrade, it seems like, movies very often or change the movies out. So
Yes.
then it's just the same stuff for like 6 months or more.
And I got to say, Netflix is one of the worst for this. They got some stale shit on that's been on there 10 years.
They do.
But anyway, they do. And now that's what happens is something exciting or that you really want to watch comes out and you're like, I got to get it again. So anyway.
It always happens.
All right. So thank you for that update of the true crime world.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that. Yeah.
I didn't know anything about this Corbett murder, so
No.
I'm definitely going to look into this case.
Yes. And we
may cover it on Mountain Murders.
And we still need to watch the documentary about the Lacey Peterson, the other woman who was killed at the
the new, was it Robin Roberts from Good Morning America?
Yes.
That's hosting. Yes, that's on Hulu.
Yes, we'll have to check that out.
We did discuss that last midweek. So yeah, we definitely need to check that out.
All right. So until next time.
I hope everybody has a great weekend, and we will be back on Monday with a brand new case. It's a doozy.
It is a doozy, and I cannot wait.
It's one of them backwoods southern fried crimes, buddy.
All right. So thank you, Heather, and thank everyone for listening. Thank you to our patrons for supporting us directly. And
if you would like to support us, check
Boom.
out patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast.
for tons of extra content, ad-free experience on all episodes. And y'all, what else could you want?
Dylan gets a little silly.
I get a little silly behind the
and
paywall.
some patrons get extra. They get extra. Like, for example, today, our patron Renee was probably really surprised when I showed up in my pajamas. Well, I don't even know if I call it that. It was what I slept in last night. When I showed up in my day-old clothes and weed-eated her yard.
Yeah.
So that was just a bonus for being a patron that I got to weed-eat her yard for her.
Yes. In pajamas.
Yeah.
Or slept in
I'm
clothes.
sure on her Ring camera she was like, what? So if you want Mountain Murders to do some yard work for you, you live nearby, we may swing by with a lawnmower. You never know.
You do never know.
Bye, Dylan.
Bye.